What if I told you that the Vatican could be about to enter its darkest phase in history? That the silent corridors of the secret library hide clues that indicate that this choice, yes, that of the new pope, was not just spiritual, but strategic, calculated, perhaps even prophetic. The death of Pope Francis shook the Catholic world, but what is behind the choice of his successor is awakening and silent fear, even within the Church itself. From the earliest days of Christianity, the Vatican has always hidden more than it revealed. Forbidden books, secret documents, gospels that never reach the public, sealed prophecies. All of this seems to have been kept under lock and key, waiting this moment. And now, with the dome of faith shaken, a new name emerges from the white smoke, and with it, a cloud of secrets that the faithful cannot ignore. Who is this man who now sits on Peter's throne? Why was he chosen right now? There are rumors, theories, and documents that suggest that his rise was predicted by ancient occult texts, kept away from the eyes of the world, locked in the darkest halls of Vatican City. There are those who say that the new pope has links to hidden prophecies in the secret archives, and that his presence could trigger a new era for the Church, or its collapse. What few know is that behind the scenes at the conclave, not everything is prayer and faith. Political forces, historical interests, and even ancient conspiracies may have influenced this decision. And, the scariest thing? All of this could be connected to ancient manuscripts, which already pointed to a leader coming from the shadows, with a past shrouded in silence and mystery. The questions begin to multiply. Has the Vatican revealed everything it knows about the new pope? What's hidden in your past? And why are so many scholars, priests, and even former Vatican officials avoiding commenting on his name? You are about to enter territory where faith, secrets, and power intersect, and nothing you believe in will be the same after that. Therefore, before we continue this in-depth investigation into the secrets of the Vatican and the true past of the new pope, I want to make a special request. Leave your prayer in the comments. Yes, your prayer. Because in times of spiritual uncertainty, where documents are hidden, truths are manipulated, and decisions that affect the entire world are made behind closed doors, praying is an act of resistance, faith, and light. Right here in the comments, your intention, your cry, or even your doubt. Let's create a prayer chain together for wisdom, discernment, and truth, because perhaps we are living the fulfillment of ancient prophecies, and only with faith and spiritual union will we be able to see beyond the veil. Don't underestimate the power of your participation. Thousands of people will see this video, and your every comment can inspire, touch, or even awaken other hearts. And if this topic moves you, if you also feel that there is something hidden that needs to come to light, like this video right now, because this really helps the content reach more people who are also seeking to understand what the Church does not reveal. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because in the next parts, we will dive even deeper. We still have secret documents to analyze, obscure connections between the new Pope and old Vatican orders, and theories that even involve the end of times. What is behind this choice? You will discover. Francis, the Pope who divided opinions, left us yesterday, and now the Catholic world is experiencing decisive days. A new era begins. But is this transition as clear as it seems? Or will it be that, once again, are behind the scenes at the Vatican hiding something that should never come to light? The white smoke signaling the selection of a new pope may have calmed the hearts of some, but for those looking beyond the surface, a sign has been given, and it is unsettling. The Vatican, known for its selective silence and its tradition of protecting secrets at any cost, moves in the shadows with surgical precision. Sealed archives, banned books, and documents classified as heretical, they remain buried in the underground corridors of the Holy See. Now, with Francis's death, a power gap has been created, and this space would never be empty. It has been filled, fast, discreet, and perhaps with someone whose story will never be officially told. But who is he? Who is the man who now wears the mantle of the most powerful spiritual authority on the planet? Few knew his name outside the innermost circles of the Church, and even those who knew spoke little, hesitantly, as if their presence awakened something uncomfortable. This new pope is not just a successor. He is a symbol, perhaps even a key piece of something bigger, something that has long been hatched in the shadows of the Vatican. There are rumors, and yes, let's talk about them, that connect his ascension to ancient prophecies hidden in the apocryphal Gospels. Texts that were banned from the traditional Bible because they contained dangerous revelations about the future of the Church and the dark role of a religious leader who would emerge at exactly this time. A time of crisis, doubt, and transition. A time when the world is thirsty for spiritual direction, but vulnerable to manipulations disguised as faith. Classified documents, which were denounced by scholars, and soon after, disappeared. Described with frightening precision, the arrival of a leader with the appearance of a lamb, but with intentions not yet revealed. And most disturbing, they called him the missing link between the old faith and a new spiritual order that is already being formed behind the scenes. The Vatican has never confirmed the existence of these manuscripts, but former archivists, excommunicated priests, and independent researchers say something else. Coincidence? Could it be? But is it really? And why was the choice made so quickly, as if it had already been decided a long time ago? Why, even before Francis's funeral mass, were there signs of internal movements in the Roman Curia? And more, why was the name of the new pope on lists of members of secret orders of the Church, known for their discreet activities and political influence inside and outside the Vatican? These questions are not simple curiosities. They are keys. Keys that take us into a much larger network than just religion. We are talking about global politics, manipulated spirituality, decisions that can shape the destiny of millions of believers. And it all starts with what's hidden behind the new leader's robe. His past is not in public records. It's been in archives that have been protected for centuries, in sections of the Vatican Library where only very few have access, places that hold secrets capable of shaking the structure of any belief. Did you know that, according to confidential records, there are documents that link the figure of this new pope to an ancient ritual of papal succession that was abolished by the Church centuries ago? A ritual that, according to reports, involved prophecies, promises, and pacts sealed with eternal silence. Stories that many consider just legends, but that have started to resurface right now, in this context. Was this just another coincidence, or was the truth always there, but no one dared to face it? And while many celebrate the choice with blind faith, others are starting to put the pieces together, because something doesn't add up. Something was accelerated. Something is off script, and the Vatican's secret archives, those that they contain accounts of popes who disappeared, of meetings that changed the course of Christianity, of censored prophecies, they may contain answers, but these answers will not be offered publicly. They are hidden, and here, we're going to follow the tracks. Perhaps you have already felt that something is wrong. That not everything presented at the altar is pure, that not all spiritual authority is moved by light. And now more than ever, we need to talk about it. We need to investigate. We need to question what the Church doesn't want you to question. And if you've made it this far, it's because this topic touches something inside you. Perhaps you have always felt that the truth is being manipulated, that behind the golden altars there are doors closed with ancient padlocks. Therefore, I want to propose something. Comment below on a phrase that is becoming a symbol of this new journey. The truth needs to come out of the shadows. Write this now in the comments. Let's turn this video into an awakening chain. If you can, add your prayer too, an intention for truth and genuine faith. During the conclave, no cameras, no cell phones, just smoke, and the selection of a new spiritual leader, an ancestral ritual, enveloped in silence, guarded by walls that have witnessed decisions that changed the course of the world. Inside, 135 cardinals meet under the gaze of centuries of history and under the weight of votes that are not just spiritual. They are political, strategic, and often loaded with secrets that will never reach the public light. There is no press, there are no records, there is no evidence other than the white smoke that rises to the sky, indicating to the world that a new name has been whispered among the most powerful men in the Church. But who is this name? Why? Was he chosen? And most importantly, why is there so much silence surrounding your past? History shows us that Vatican conclaves are like chessboards, where the pawns are faithful, and the kings are those who control the destiny of faith. Often, the Pope is not the one with the purest heart, but the one with the most solid alliances. And when we talk about the new Pope, disturbing signs emerge that his rise was already plotted long before Francisco's death. There are those who say that he was prepared for years, in silence, away from the spotlight, trained not only in Catholic doctrine, but in diplomatic language, the art of hiding intentions, and the ability to maintain power with one hand and the truth with the other. It is no coincidence that during the conclave, the doors are locked and the windows closed. The Sistine Chapel turns into a secret theater where the behind-the-scenes of faith reveal themselves as a game of influence and hidden interests. Decisions are not only based on spirituality, but also on dossiers, reports, geopolitical alliances, and, according to some former members of the Curia, even on ancient prophecies that still circulate discreetly among the corridors of the Vatican. One of these documents, known only to scholars as the Words of the Last Faithful, suggests that a pope will emerge in times of global crisis with the appearance of a peacemaker, but with a silent mission to restructure the church according to a new spiritual order connected to forces that many refuse to admit. This document, classified as apocryphal and withdrawn from circulation more than a century ago, describes in frightening detail the arrival of a leader who would bring with him a false light, capable of guiding multitudes without them realizing that they are being taken away from the original essence of faith. And this is precisely what begins to worry theologians, independent priests, and prophecy scholars. The profile of the new pope fits perfectly into this text. He is charismatic, yes, but his trajectory is marked by gaps. There are entire years of his life that do not appear in official records, trainings that were never confirmed, trips that are not on public agendas, and links with institutions that, although denied, still raise suspicions behind the scenes. Furthermore, his first address as Pope was carefully written. Each word seemed measured, precisely placed to convey humility, peace, and renewal. But in in-depth analysis, linguists identified subtle terms that refer to internal documents of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, the Vatican arm responsible for monitoring and censoring ideas considered dangerous to dogma. The new Pope, therefore, can be not only a spiritual leader, but an agent of containment and control within the Church itself. Now imagine this. The man who just assumed the highest spiritual role in the world could be directly connected to archives that the Vatican keeps away from prying eyes. Among them, texts that talk about Jesus from a new perspective, Gospels that never entered the Bible and that present a Messiah that is more human, more revolutionary, more politically active, something that could overturn centuries of official doctrine. And the most impressive thing, there are records that indicate that the new Pope has already had access to these documents when he was just a young religious on a mission in the internal libraries of the Holy See. This type of information is not revealed in the newspapers, does not appear in official broadcasts. It is guarded, protected, and only comes to light through small leaks, anonymous testimonies, and independent investigations that put anyone who dares to say too much at risk. And yet, here we are, gathering fragments, crossing data, connecting signals, and bringing to the surface what has been submerged for centuries. This is not about disrespecting faith. On the contrary, it is precisely because we deeply respect it that we need to question, investigate, and demand transparency. Why true faith does not need secrets, locked chambers, and imposed silence. And when we realize that the new Pope may be sitting on ancient secrets, on documents that would change the understanding of Christianity, on prophecies that reveal the destiny of the Church, then it is our duty to seek the truth. Maybe that's why you're here, watching this video until now, because something inside you has always suspected that there is a story behind the story, that the Vatican holds much more than reliquaries and statues, that there are hidden manuscripts, buried Gospels, and erased revelations, all carefully kept away from the people to protect a power structure built over 2 millennia. And now, with this new Pope taking over, the pieces start moving again. But we're not just here to observe. We are here to look for answers. Nobody expected a name outside the betting, coming from an unexpected place, a man with a history full of mysteries. When the new pope was announced, the silence that followed among experts, religious people, and even some cardinals was more eloquent than any public acclaim. It was as if, behind the curtains of the celebration, there was a subtle discomfort, a silent alert. Those who closely follow movements within the Vatican know that the choice of a pope is rarely random. There is a whole internal game that precedes the white smoke, pressure, veiled alliances, silent promises. And this time, the chosen one was not among the favorites. His name wasn't even circulated on the most discreet behind-the-scenes lists. It was as if he had been taken from a confidential file and placed there, at the center of the world's faith, like a missing piece to complete a puzzle that few can fully see. And that's exactly why your past needs to be looked at carefully. We are not just talking about his trajectory as a religious man, but about the paths he took and the silences he carried over the years. There are gaps in your biography, journeys whose records have disappeared, periods of spiritual formation that do not coincide with the calendars of the religious orders to which he would have belonged, institutions where his name appears as a visitor, but without any public record of what he would have done there. And even more intriguing, its relationship with restricted Vatican archives and libraries. Yes, there are indications that the new pope had access years ago to documents from the Vatican secret library, texts that the Church has never made available to the public, considering them dangerous, incompatible with official doctrine, and even heretical. Among these documents, according to reports that have not been officially confirmed, was an almost illegible copy of a manuscript attributed to the Apostle Thomas, containing descriptions of a disguised master who would emerge at the end of time. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the connections don't stop there. The new Pope already worked, before his ascension to the supreme position, in departments that today no longer officially exist, sectors linked to the analysis of apocryphal texts and the sorting of ancient papal letters, documents that spoke of censored gospels, hidden prophecies, and even passages from the life of Jesus that were deliberately erased from the official narrative. Many of these files never came to light, but the new pope was there. It saw, read, and now he carries with him a wealth of knowledge that can literally rewrite the history of faith. And how does someone who has experienced this kind of access suddenly become the new leader of the Church? Who is behind this choice? Who authorized his candidacy in the conclave, if he was not even publicly considered? This is where silent orders come in, organizations that operate within the Church, but are not officially recognized. Groups made up of cardinals, Vatican historians, former members of the Curia who still have influence, and who have defended a deep rereading of the scriptures, based on hidden texts and unofficial revelations. There are suspicions that this pope is the representative, perhaps the first chosen, of this alternative vision. A vision that seeks to prepare the Church for what lies ahead. A new spiritual era, based not only on faith, but on the power of controlled revelation. This possibility scares a lot of people, and with good reason, because if he truly is connected to these inner orders, then his mission is not just to lead spiritually, but rather to lead the Church through silent transformation, a transition that can begin subtly, with small liturgical changes, revisions to old documents, reinterpretations of doctrine, but that, little by little, could culminate in the biggest turning point of all time, the official release of the Vatican's secret archives. Think about it. What if this unexpected choice is just the first step in an ancient plan to expose what has been hidden for centuries? Unrevealed prophecies, relics never shown to the public, gospels that reveal a Jesus completely different from the one presented by the councils, texts that talk about his childhood, his unrecorded teachings, his supposed lineage. All of this, kept under lock and key, now in the hands of someone who has already had access to the vault of history. This pope may not have come from the betting, but he could have come from the archives, and that changes everything. Because now, every word, he says, every gesture, every decision needs to be read with the eyes of someone who knows that truth and power go together, and sometimes they hide under the same cassock. What we are seeing is the beginning of something much bigger, a process that will not be publicly declared, but that has already begun to move behind the scenes. And if you pay attention, you will notice the signs. In sermons, between the lines, in internal documents that begin to circulate in a new guise. The Vatican is preparing. And the new Pope is not just a name, he is a code. If you are following this journey and feel that there is something more behind this choice, comment now on the sentence, "The chosen one was not what was expected." Write this in the comments. This will be our secret signal to show that we are awake, attentive, connected. And if you want to go further, also leave your question. What would you like to ask the new Pope if you had the chance? Leave your prayer, your doubt, your look, because here, silence is no longer an option. We are together in this search for answers. Some believe that this choice was not divine, but strategic. Others see prophecies being fulfilled. And when these two possibilities collide, behind-the-scenes manipulation and echoes of ancient hidden revelations, what emerges is a frighteningly real scenario. The choice of the new Pope, made unexpectedly, full of silence and full of gaps in his trajectory, has been analyzed with extreme attention by independent scholars, theologians who dare to challenge the official narrative, and even by former members of the clergy, today removed from office for refusing to maintain the pact of silence. For many of them, this man's ascension to the faith's most powerful throne represents not just a papal transition, but the beginning of something much greater, something carefully prepared for decades, perhaps centuries, within the walls of the Vatican, walls that saw secret pacts, meetings in underground, chambers and oaths of fidelity to the truth or to its concealment. The idea that this choice could have been devised by human hands and not guided solely by the Holy Spirit may seem offensive to some, but it doesn't come out of nowhere. Internal documents, whose existence is officially denied, but whispered in academic corridors and among those who have already had access to parts of the Vatican's secret library, speak of meetings organized by internal church groups that, since the 19th century, had been outlining ideal profiles for a future transition from the traditional church to a new global structure of faith. We are not just talking about doctrine, but about true spiritual and political engineering. A plan that would involve the gradual introduction of revisionist ideas, the reinterpretation of biblical texts, and above all, the controlled release of certain hidden documents that would forever alter the understanding of Christianity. To do this, a specific leader would be needed, someone shaped in the shadows, prepared with extreme caution and with a silent mission, to guide humanity towards a spiritual new pact. Many believe that this Pope is this man, and this connects directly with ancient prophecies, little known to the public, but much studied by occult religious orders. Texts such as the prophecy of Malachi, for example, predicted the arrival of a last pope, the Roman Peter, who would reign during times of great tribulation and, according to some, interpretations would mark the beginning of the end of the Church as we know it. This new pope, still without the same media charisma as Francis, fits this description with disturbing precision, coming from an unexpected origin, linked to regions outside the traditional European axis, with a history shrouded in mystery and a language that, despite being soft, carries symbolic terms used by schools of esoteric thought linked to internal currents within the Vatican. In addition to Malachi's prophecy, there are others, even older, less known, but recorded in fragments of hidden codices that some say were rescued from the catacombs of Rome. These texts speak of a leader who would emerge after the Shepherd of the East, in a time where the faith of the temples would weaken and the people would seek signs in the heavens. Interestingly, this narrative coincides with the current situation in the world: religious conflicts, existential crises, an increase in the search for spirituality, outside churches, and, in parallel, a flood of archaeological and astronomical discoveries that have challenged the traditional view of creation. But what most intrigues those who deeply study the Church's secrets is the supposed relationship of this new pope with lost documents that mention an alliance between the Curia and mystical orders of the past, such as the Essenes, the Templars, and even pre-Christian sects that had different versions of the story of Jesus. Texts that state that the Messiah did not just come to teach, but to found a spiritual lineage that would be kept secret for generations. And now, at this exact moment in history, it would be ready to return to public knowledge through a disguised messenger. The new pope, according to this theory, would not just be a priest. He would be the bearer of the final key. Of course, this all seems fanciful at first glance. And this is exactly the protection mechanism used for centuries by the Vatican: selective ridicule, making certain information so absurd that the simple act of questioning it is grounds for derision. But if you've ever noticed that official history is full of holes, if you've ever wondered why so many texts were removed from the Bible, why there are entire passages in the life of Jesus that disappear without explanation, and why so many priests, monks, and even cardinals have been silenced throughout history, then you know that there is something behind the veil. And now, in this delicate moment, when the white smoke announced a new pontiff, we have before us a figure who can be both the restorer of truth and the driver of a new deception. It all depends on what he does with the power he now carries, and what he already knows, but hasn't revealed yet. After all, if he really had access to the forbidden archives, if he read the hidden texts, if he carries with him the key to the Vatican's doctrinal catacombs, then we are about to witness a movement that has not been repeated since the first centuries of Christianity, the revelation of what has been buried, burned, or silent. The new pope may be about to rewrite chapters in the history of faith, and this could directly affect his belief. And we're not talking about small liturgical changes or superficial doctrinal updates. We are talking about something much deeper, much more structural, something that affects the foundations on which the faith of millions of people around the world was built. The simple fact that this new pontiff has exclusive and restricted access to the most secret archives of the Vatican Library already raises questions that can no longer be ignored. Between these silent walls, documents are kept that were hidden from the public for centuries, texts considered too dangerous for the common faithful, gospels that present completely different versions of what was canonized, and letters that reveal behind the scenes of the first Christian communities that contradict much of the official narrative that we know today. When we say he can rewrite the history of faith, it's not just a metaphor. There are reports that indicate that he had been trained for years within a specific order, not yet officially recognized, but highly influential in the inner circles of the Roman Curia. This order, according to scholars, is responsible for interpreting and evaluating historical documents that directly challenge the pillars of institutionalized Christianity. They don't just study these texts, they classify them, catalog them, and determine if, when, and how the content can be revealed to the world. Now think with me. What if the new pope not only knows these texts, but also shares the view that the time has come to free them from the shadows? What if your silent mission is precisely to prepare the world for this revelation? Some documents, still kept confidential, mention the existence of records about the true childhood of Jesus, his coexistence with mystical groups in the desert, his relationship with spiritual traditions from other cultures, and even the supposed link with lost writings that would reveal a more human, more political and less divine Messiah than what has been preached over the centuries. And now, with the new pope in charge, this information may come to light, not as conspiracy theories or isolated heresies, but as facts supported by original manuscripts written in Aramaic, ancient Greek and Coptic, languages that only the most profound scholars master, and which until today have served as a barrier so restricted. The impact of this? Immeasurable. Imagine people's faith being confronted with versions they have never heard. Imagine what would happen if confirmed that some books were deliberately the scripture, or that certain passages were altered to favor political agreements in the Roman Empire and the religious of the time. This is not fantasy. These are real, documented possibilities, studied by experts who have risked their careers and their lives to bring these truths to light. And the new pope, it seems, not only knows all of this, but also has enough power to decide what will be kept secret and what will finally be revealed. This is not a change that will happen overnight. It will be slow, subtle, strategic, but the signs have already begun to emerge. Words used in recent statements, symbolic gestures, visits to places that, were not part of the Vatican's traditional agenda. All of this indicates an internal movement of preparation, a global repositioning of faith. And if you're watching this video so far, it's because you feel like something is about to change. You feel like there's a piece out of place, a gap in the narrative, and you're not alone. Therefore, comment now on the sentence, "They are rewriting everything," if you feel there is a new version of the story being prepared, away from the public eye. And, if you want, also write what worries you most. What do you believe the Vatican is still hiding? Which book do you think should be in the Bible? Let's create a space for reflection here in the comments. Because, as you've already noticed, the answers will not come from above. They will come from anyone who dares to question, and which may contain the password to the greatest revelation in the history of the Christian faith. And that is exactly why, from this point on, the questions stop being simple spiritual doubts and become urgent questions about the structure of the Church itself. The new Pope, the eighth king, as many are already calling him behind the scenes, did not arrive at Peter's throne like any other charismatic leader. He arrived like symbol of silent, strategic, and planned change. A change that involves not only doctrine and liturgy, but access to the truth itself. In recent weeks, internal Vatican sources have reported discrete movements in the most restricted section of the Apostolic Library. This area, which many believe holds the Church's most secret document, including undisclosed prophecies, coded letters from ancient popes, and records dating back to the first centuries of Christianity, began to receive visitors outside the usual with total secrecy and under tight security. And the most intriguing the new pope was present on at least one of these. No cameras, no press, no official record, just him and two veteran cardinals, known for their connection with the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, the body historically responsible for suppressing ideas considered dangerous to the spiritual stability of the Church. Now, imagine what could be hidden there. Old reports that speak of hidden apparitions never recognized. Scrolls presenting previously unpublished versions of pivotal New Testament events. Letters between popes that reveal internal conflicts over whether or not to maintain certain dogmas. But the most impressive thing is that among these files, there are rumors about a specific document, a manuscript attributed to a former papal advisor from the 16th century, who wrote about a hidden prophecy, a vision that pointed to the arrival of a silent man, a pope from the unknown, with the appearance of a lamb and sweet words, but who would carry within him the beginning of a new spiritual era, based on a false global consensus. This document, according to reports, was sealed with 3 wax rings, marked with ancient symbols and classified as non-destination alla lettura pubblica, that is, never intended for public reading. And most alarmingly, records of its existence stopped appearing in the library's inventories after 1982. Since then, it has been considered lost, destroyed, or archived in a papal vault where only the pontiffs have direct access. And now, with the inauguration of the new pope, signs are emerging that this text has been rediscovered, or rather, that he already knew about its existence, perhaps even since his religious training days. Some independent scholars, who dedicate their lives to researching the Church's parallel archives, claim that the new pope has already cited, in closed speeches, excerpts that are similar to this document, excerpts that speak of a transition from faith to collective reason, of a new communion between all religions under a single flag of peace, the type of speech that, although beautiful and diplomatic, carries with it the embryo of a concept feared by many: preparation for a single world religion, a faith without roots, without tradition, without Christ as its center, a faith remodeled to unite, yes, but also to control. And at this moment in history, when so many ancient prophecies seem to align with current events, we can no longer ignore the signs. The selection of the new pope may have been more than a spiritual act. It may have been the fulfillment of a hidden script, begun centuries ago, now in its final stretch. Therefore, it is essential that you reflect. Do you believe this choice was divine or manipulated? Right here in the comments, use exactly this phrase, "I believe that," and complete with your opinion. Not only does this help us keep this dialogue alive, it shows that you are paying attention to everything that is being revealed here. If you've made it this far, It shows that you're different, that you don't accept everything they tell you without questioning, that you feel, just like I do, that there is something much bigger going on behind the veils of the Vatican. And so, before ending this video, I want to extend a special invitation to you. Subscribe to the channel now. This is essential for you to continue this investigation with me, step by step, revelation by revelation. Here, we are not afraid to ask questions. Here, we expose what was hidden. So click the subscribe button and activate the bell, because in the next videos we will delve even deeper into the prophecies, the hidden documents, and the silent plan that may be being carried out right now within the church. Now, if you stayed until the end of this video, I want you to comment on this sentence below. The truth is being revealed. Comment exactly like this. This will be our secret password. It will show me that you are part of the group that is awake, that is connected, and that wants to go all the way on this journey with me. And of course, leave your like right now. It really helps this content reach other people who, like you, are looking for answers. And it's not coming out yet. The next video is already here on the screen, ready for you to click. In it, we will reveal the direct connection between the new Pope and a secret document hidden in the basements of the Vatican, which may contain the greatest secret in the history of the Church. Click now and continue with me in this investigation. The truth is closer than ever.